You're one of 20 House Republicans demanding the impeachment of the failed DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who many acknowledge was simply implementing Joe Biden's pro-illegal immigration policies. But with a slim GOP majority in the next Congress, nearly every Republican is going to have to be on board in order to push an impeachment forward. Plus, with Democrats in full-throated support of all the chaos, death, and lawlessness at the border, and they control the Senate, the chances that the Senate's going to go along and remove this guy, slim but none. Congressman, is there a more effective approach that Republicans in the House can do other than impeachment?
Well, you said it right, Chris. We don't have the Senate. The American people spoke, and whether that's through election irregularities or whether there's just a lot of people out there that hadn't gotten bad enough yet, return a lot of these Democrats to office, sadly to say. We can pass stuff in the House. We have a very, very slim majority in the House. It looks like we're going to have about a 5-seat majority. So everyone has got to stick together if we're going to do things like impeach, a derelict like Alejandro Mayorkas. And I was down there almost 3 weeks ago in El Paso. I saw when this big upsurge was just beginning. And then, as you said in your monologue, my goodness, your guest, your reporter, unbelievable numbers coming across. And let me just say this, the Mexican government is no longer our friend. Donald J. Trump got their attention. He made sure they came to the table. They worked out a deal for MPP, remain in Mexico, and all the rest. And this has been thrown out the window, and we have zero credibility, it looks like, down there, because bus after bus after bus, and as your reporter said, plane loads of them are being shipped out of Mexico into the United States. In 48 hours, we had 16,000 illegal entries. And let me tell you, at this rate, and Title 42 about to go away, at this rate, we will have 13 million or more illegal entries by the end of Joe Biden's his term in office. And the scariest thing, the absolute scariest thing, is that we will have about 4 million gotaways. These are people that didn't want to be caught. And that's full of terrorists, people who are convicted criminals, the child molesters, the rapists, the murderers. These are people that are bad. And it's just a matter of time when we have another terrorist attack, not if, but when, the way this thing is going. And it's all under the watch of Alejandro Mayorkas doing the bidding of this incompetent boob that we have in the White House.
True, true. And his Democrat Party. I know of no Democrat save one who's giving lip service because he's running for president, who is opposing all of the harm being done down there at the border. This crisis is accelerating, as you made mention, Congressman, record levels, and Title 42 is going to end. This, as Republican Senator Tom Tillis of your party, sir, he's reportedly working on a bill with left-wing Senator Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona. This bill would grant amnesty to millions of illegal aliens. Congressman, what is your reaction to, air quotes, Republican Senator Tom Tillis and like-minded Republicans seeking to reward all of the Democrat lawlessness by normalizing illegal aliens while the current government-caused crisis rages out of control, is claiming so much in treasure and in lives and doing so much damage?
I'm vehemently opposed. This would be the worst thing that we could do, the worst signal that we could send, not only to South America, Middle America, Central America, or Mexico, but to the entire world. 150-plus nations are already sending people by the hundreds of thousands into our country. If we grant amnesty, all that does is just put out a neon blinking sign to say, keep coming in, just stick around, and you will get your citizenship. I am totally opposed to this. I represent 790,000 people in Southeast Texas, roughly from Houston over to Louisiana. And we will probably have a majority of about 220, 222 maybe. We don't know just yet. And everybody's going to have to stick together to make sure that we can oppose this, because if it goes through the Senate, and it might do that, then we've got to make sure that we stop that nonsense in the House of Representatives, because it would absolutely overwhelm and already overwhelmed Border Patrol, the morale of the Border Patrol. We talked to these heroes down there a couple of 3 weeks ago, and they've had 14 suicides. The morale is in the tank, and they can't recruit people. And who would want to serve when they have this type of morale and not able to do their job? And it's kind of like our military. Our military's, the recruitment's down nearly 50% because of this administration. You know, I hate to call the president an incompetent boob, but if he's not incompetent, he is sure doing some stuff that looks seditious, traitorous, and absolutely anti-American, and he's got the people lined up behind him and his party that are going along with this.
Absolutely. That does seem to describe the Democrat Party planks to a T. Speaking of Democrats, California Governor Gavin Newsom, I made mention of him earlier, he's warning of the catastrophe to come when the pro-American Title 42 instituted by Trump goes away. Watch this.
The fact is, what we've got right now is not working, and is about to break in a post-42 world unless we take some responsibility and ownership. And I'm saying that as a Democrat. I'm not saying that to point fingers.
Okay. All right. Mr. Newsom there, Congressman, forgot to mention the fact that his state, California, supports illegal immigration with its sanctuary policies. But what do you make of this, Congressman? Has Joe Biden's handlers done so much damage to the United States that not even the most extreme Democrat like Gavin Newsom there can support him any longer? Or is this just another Democrat saying anything that he can to try to calm the American people because he's running for president?
It could be a little of both there. It really could. This is the guy, Gavin Newsom, who has had open borders and gives free stuff to every illegal that comes in, wants to give them the vote, and at the expense of their own citizens. They have a huge crime wave out there. They've got woke Democrat attorneys general and districts of attorney that simply don't prosecute, throwing business owners and citizens of California to the wolves. And now he's complaining about Title 42 going away. Give me a break. This is the guy that has a sanctuary state, for goodness sakes. It's the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen.